Hello and welcome to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Next to me here we have a brand new Lotus Emira, a very exciting car to have here in the shop because I've actually never worked on a Lotus. I have done in the past 10 plus years of detailing quite a few sports cars. As you guys know, on the out of spec detailing channel here, we are typically detailing a ton of EVs. And the whole reason behind that is basically that's what you guys like to watch. Every time I post a video with a combustion vehicle, it gets no views. So this is going to be a little bit of a passion project, and hopefully you guys watch this and actually enjoy the video. But we're going to be doing a full new car vehicle prep on this, getting this thing absolutely dialed in and giving it the love and respect that this car really deserves. There's been quite an interesting story with Lotus Emiras here in the United States. So I'm going to run through that, show you the current condition of the car, and then we are going to get detailing it. So welcome back. Let's jump into it. I always think it's quite funny. A lot of people who watch this channel and a lot of friends and family ask me if I only work on EVs. And in all reality, no. Detailing, you can detail any car. My audience is just so heavily focused on EVs. Of course, I have a lot of people reaching out through YouTube to get their vehicles done. And a lot of those folks watching that are out of spec viewers are of course EV viewers. But I really started my career working on some really amazing sports cars, luxury vehicles, and even supercars. I've worked on vehicles like Lamborghini Huracans, of course, Porsche GT3s, GT3 RSs, some Ferraris here and there. And I've never had a chance to work on a Lotus, so I'm very excited for this one. Now, the story with Lotus here in the United States has been interesting to say the least. I've actually had two customers reach out to me saying they were picking up a new Emira and they wanted to get them done. The interesting story here is there's been some issues with CARB compliance. So basically, of course, these cars are made not in the United States. They get imported over here. But the issue with this is something happened with the California CARB laws that they are requiring these cars to go through another cycle of emissions testing. I believe they actually have a third catalytic converter for the US spec vehicles. So a lot of these cars have been sitting for months. They were shipped over here, but they were basically on stop sale to where folks could not take delivery of them. In certain states you could. I believe Utah was one of the first that you could pick one up. But here in Colorado, I had two customers really waiting for their car to come in. And finally, they are all passed. They're ready to go, ready to be roadworthy. So one of my biggest concerns is, how have these cars been sitting? Have they been sitting outside? Now, this car was picked up down in Denver at our Denver Lotus, I believe down at the Mike Ward dealership down there. And from what I'm seeing so far, water spots are a big problem on these vehicles, at least for this vehicle. So I'll walk you through here a little bit about what's been done. As you can see, we got some very dark tint on here, but I also want to walk through the current condition of the vehicle before we get started with the detail, so you can really see what a brand new Lotus Emira comes in like. I believe these cars are still completely hand built, and I'm curious to see, are we going to really feel that while detailing it? But let's take a quick walk around here, and I want to show you quite a few things. First off, you can see the back here, very tinted glass under here. This is of course done by my customer, and you can see water spots absolutely everywhere. One thing that I'm really a little bit concerned about is how long have these water spots been baking on there. If I just look back here at this rear diffuser, hopefully you can see how etched all of that is, even on the white paint. Now, as you know, this being an internal combustion engine, back here we're going to have a ton of iron deposits. That's all this black nastiness back here. Basically what happens quite a bit is, of course, you're running quite a rich mixture back here. The gas kind of swirls around and it'll get embedded into the paint back here. So the whole rationale for this detail, we want to get it paint corrected. We want to get all the scratches, all the watermarks, all of this decontaminated, then apply a ceramic coating to the paint, basically on the entire vehicle, all of the diffusers, splitters, all of those areas. So it's a lot easier to keep clean. And then when inevitably it does get dirty, it's a heck of a lot easier to wash it and clean it up. Up here we have a solid black roof. This, I'm sure, will be a very tricky section to go in, paint, correct, and polish. Curious to see how either soft or hard the paint is on this. Again, I have literally no experience with Lotus, so I'm very anxious to start working on it. You can see down here, wheels absolutely covered in brake dust. This is a true sports car, so brake feel is one of the things that Lotus is going to go after, meaning probably quite soft pads, more kind of race inspired or, you know, canyon inspired brake pads on here, and they're going to produce a ton of brake dust. If I just kind of do that, holy smokes. So we're of course going to be pulling the wheels off of this. We're going to be cleaning up the wheels, cleaning up the suspension while we're in there. We'll get the brake calipers coated. We'll get the wheels coated on the face, on the inside of the wheel, getting those completely dialed in so they're a heck of a lot easier to clean. Now, one thing that I really love about this, there's not a ton, if any, of the textured black plastic trim on here. I think there's one area up here on the cowl, so I will have a specific coating that we can do in here. This front trunk is actually not really accessible. There is a way to basically unscrew it. It is on some hydraulics, but basically under a few of these ports here, we can unscrew that, open this up here, and do some cleaning under there. As you notice, this big vent in here is definitely going to hold some dirt and debris, so I want to make sure we can definitely clean that up. Honestly, car is not in terrible condition. One of my biggest concerns with this, after we get the dirt, the water spots off, hopefully from washing it, is what's the paint going to look like? My impression is it's probably going to be not sort of perfect at all. It's going to have a lot of polishing marks in it. We'll definitely have to see how that goes. But really, the main focus is getting the paint dialed in, getting coatings on the wheels, and then lastly, really focusing on the interior. The interior of this car is absolutely stunning. Lotus has done a very nice job on the inside of this, really making it look quite nice. Love the shifter linkage in there. Of course, this one being a manual. One concern of my customers was these red seats. He's already starting to get quite a bit of blue jean dye transfer over here. So we're going to clean up these seats and actually fully ceramic coat them. So let's get started with a first initial wash, get this thing decontaminated. We'll pull it back into the paint correction detail bay. I'll do a full inspection of the paint, noticing anything that's kind of out of the ordinary or things that I just see. We'll run through that and then start our paint correction. Then we'll get into wheels, the final details of ceramic coating everything, and hopefully this thing comes out amazing. Well, the Emira is washed and dried now and looking a heck of a lot better. Just getting that road grime off of this thing, can definitely see how much more glossy and really nice this white paint is. Funny enough, I didn't realize, I thought this was going to be a non-metallic white. It actually has a very slight bit of metallic. Now, one thing I'm noticing, I don't know if it's coming through on camera, this paint looks quite yellow. It's not like a super crisp, bright white. That's why I was thinking, okay, this is definitely some sort of a non-metallic flat white paint. Now, a couple of things about this. It's really funny, people think you spend a ton of money on a car. Like, this is a $100,000 car. It's not cheap and it's hand built. And a lot of people would think, wow, this paint's gonna come in absolutely perfect. From my professional experience working with sports cars, supercars, that can be farther from the case. Worked on quite a few Ferraris, Lamborghinis, high-end vehicles like that. And my impression is the more money you really spend on these cars, the worse the paint comes in looking like. The rationale behind that is they spend more time on their quality control. So they're not slapping these things together through an assembly line, sending them out the door. They're actually stopping at these stations, looking for paint imperfections. They go in, rotary polish them, can add some scratches in there as well. And that is no exception here on the Emira. Funny enough, what I was doing right before this, I was starting my initial paint inspection. When I do that, traditionally on videos, what I like to do is grab some tape, mark out some areas as I'm going through it so I can show you guys. I started doing that and realized the whole car kind of needs to be taped up, in all honesty. Lots of watermarks in here, lots of rotary polishing, lots of scratches. Now, one of the first things I do with my paint inspection is look at the cracks and crevices. This is with every car. So what I mean by that is I start looking at this rubber and I start looking at things like this. If you notice what this is an indication that this car has been polished at some point, whether it's at the dealership, whether it's at the factory. You can see this whole lip right here, definitely down here, lots of little white polish residue. So that means the whole roof has definitely been polished at some point. As you walk your way through the car, you start noticing more and more of this. So that's my first indication, okay, something's been done to this, which is completely okay. I do understand it. I'd rather have these cars come in with, you know, not a ton of deep scratches, paint nibs and things like that. If the factory wants to fix them, okay, that's totally fine. We can fix it as detailers. I start looking here at basically rubber like this. This side actually looks okay, but it's a little dull and I can definitely see it's been polished on before. Then I come back here. Look at this area. All this rubber, all the glass. This is all huge indication that this has been rotary polished. Those areas are super tricky to get compound and polish out. When I do a full paint correction on these cars, I very much go through, clean out all the cracks and crevices before or after as well, and make sure that we're not leaving anything behind. That's a very indication that this has been touched. I move over here, I see the same thing. This rubber has tons of little marks on it. You can see some white marking there, so it's definitely been polished. Now, how I look for scratches and paint imperfections is one of these. This is called a scan grip light. Now, the whole point of this is to mimic the sun. So as you can see here, I put this on the paint. It shows what's actually in the paint. Now, the nice thing is we don't have to have this thing outside. We can have it in a controlled environment, but even better than that, I can move this around. And I just want to show you, like this area right here, see those deep scratches in there? That is all over this car. We also have a ton of watermarks. So just looking back here at this area, look at the water etching in that. It is covered. It's all over the paint. It's all over the piano black trim. We have a lot of work ahead of us here. So what I want to do, I'm going to shut down the lights. It helps me in basically filming this, showing you guys all the imperfections in here. Yes, it's a little bit extreme. The issue is white is so reflective, it's a little bit harder to see. But as you can also see, I just showed you those marks. So if you were to take this car outside, the sun was at basically noon right now, you could easily see those scratches on the rear fender. So let's take a little bit of time here, run through the car, and let me show you all of the imperfections with this Emira. So we've got the lights off now, and this is going to help us substantially look for imperfections. Start here on the mirror. Lots of polishing residue, lots of rotary polishing, lots of scratches, lots of watermarks. Looking at this A-pillar, same thing going on. Look at that mirror triangle there. Holy Toledo. This needs some serious, serious love. So you can see this entire area up here has been fully rotary polished. Yikes. The whole roof has as well tons of water spots in it. This thing has some serious scratches in it. Moving back here. Yeah. Again, guys, this is what you see when you get some sports cars and things like that. Look at all the rotary marks in here. Holy smokes. Deep scratches here in these vents. These are very tricky areas to not only compound but polish out as well. You can see not looking so good there also. Now the white is very hard to pick up here. I'm gonna have to do what I can, but you can see some imperfections in here. Just looking here on the vents, look at all the scratches in those. Man, oh man, we got our work cut out for us here. Moving back here to the deck lid, hopefully you guys can pick this up on camera. This has been fully rotary polished, scratches everywhere all over this. A little bit of water spotting going on as well. And again, speaking of water spotting, look at this under the light. Looks absolutely terrible. This whole vent back here completely scratched up. Also on the taillights, a little bit of scratching. Back here on the Lotus badges, hopefully you guys can see this. Let me try and zoom in. Lots of water stain marks in there. This whole area has been rotary polished as well. Wow. It's almost a shame to see this. It really is, but wow. Look at this mark right in here. Holy smokes. Moving on to this A-pillar yet again. Yeah, so this is what we get into, folks. There is a ton of work needed. Look at the watermarks in that. Deep, heavy scratches, deep rotary marks in this. This whole thing, that's what I was saying. Instead of me putting tape on here, I just had to show you because basically every single piece on this car needs a pretty heavy compounded polish. So looking here at this A-pillar, some deep, heavy marring marks there. We'll get those polished out, no problem. Now, I can definitely go around this entire car, and every place I go, I just see watermarks. I see quite a few scratches, rotary polishes. This whole area here, hopefully you guys can see that. Let me zoom in. Lots of scratches, lots and lots and lots of scratches. Moving down the side of the car here, let me see if I can get this on camera. Right there, nice little sanding mark as well. Scratches all above, water spots all above. This is the driver's side door, of course. You can see scratches going down the side right in this particular area around the door handle. This area is looking quite rough as well. It's really hard to get white on camera, but you can definitely easily see those scratches. Big scratches right in this particular area as well. Moving up here to the rear fender, you can see some more of those marring marks, more scratches up in this particular area. Moving to the rear bumper now, more scratches within here. It is pretty much everywhere, to be totally honest with you. Pretty crazy. But in all honesty, guys, yet again, like I keep saying, this is very indicative of a hand-built vehicle and not something that I'm not used to. Again, I think one of the worst cars I've ever had in the shop here was an Arancio Borealis Lamborghini Huracan. The entire thing was fully polished, sanding marks all over it. It was truly a mess. Just look here on this fender, tons of scratches in here as well. Wow. Can see these vents, how scratched up those are. I'm assuming this is going to be a very challenging vent to polish, but we'll definitely get her dialed in. Tons of scratches here, right underneath the door handle, basically the entire car. So you've kind of got a good idea now. The paint's not in perfect condition. It really needs that full paint correction, the full polish afterwards. And it's going to be a big project here, but I'm excited for this one. I'm very anxious to work on this paint. One thing you do need to know about Lotus, most of these panels are fiberglass or composite materials. So I can actually not use a paint meter on this. So I've got to use my 10 plus years of detailing experience. Be very careful with this paint. Be careful around edges. If you don't know, Emiras actually have quite a few paint issues as of late. We've been seeing quite a bit of door bubbling. Basically in the paint where, you know, in areas like the door here, seeing little chunks of paint start to pop off because they're not fully prepped totally right. But I'm excited for this one, so let's jump in to paint correction. Well, this thing is looking absolutely stunning. And do keep in mind, this is only the compound stage. We still have to polish this. We still have to ceramic coat this. So the gloss level is just gonna get turned up to 11 here. But look how insanely nice this is coming out. Now, this paint's been interesting to say the least. The more and more I got into it, the more stuff I found. I found tons of rotary marks. I think pretty much every single panel had been rotary polished from the factory, and found a ton of sanding marks in like the most inconspicuous areas. Like had some in here, had some right here above the door handle, just in like very strange areas that were really hard to see. Now, I'll be honest with you, this car has been a little bit of a challenge to work on. I mean, just looking here at this front fender, the amount of concave in here, basically, you're basically polishing up a beach ball. Every surface is curved other than the hood and the front part of this bumper. It just makes for a very challenging detail, but man, I have been loving literally every single minute of it. These vents, areas like this, are so challenging to get into. They've done it in such a way that getting a polisher in there is really tricky because of the height of the polisher. You know, I could definitely go down to a 1-inch basically pad and get in here, but the polisher is still too long that way. So it makes it very tricky. Coming up here to vents like this, getting all these little angles in here. This was all polished, had tons of scratches all over it. Now, the paint's not gonna look very pretty right now, if you will. It's all hazed up, definitely needs a polish, but you can see all the big scratches are gone, all the water spots are gone, but all of that DA haze in there, that's what we're gonna take out with the polish. But this was definitely a bigger project than I was kind of anticipating. Again, like I said, as I got more and more into this detail, the paint was just pretty darn hammered. Every single area had deeper and deeper scratches. Now, I'm very thankful that I, invest in my business and have the proper tools for this. Having the car up on the lift was an absolute game changer, especially for doing areas like this diffuser. This diffuser was a massive pain in the butt, but man, it's looking so much better. This was heavily water spotted. Every single edge here had been polished. And you can even see down here, this is actually not from me. There's some leftover polish residue. Still need to clean that up. But the challenging thing with this car is like this area here on the diffuser. To do this white strip, you've got to tape the diffuser. Then to do the black strip, you've got to tape the white painted bumper. And then you can imagine, you guys saw me do that on every single panel. So like this license plate holder in here, had to tape up the side. The whole reason for doing that is basically the side of your polisher here. You don't want to be smacking it against the paint. It'll actually scour it quite a bit. But really, what comes into a lot of time with, sports cars and very angular vehicles like this is you can look down this hip right here. Now, this portion looks quite flat, but then you have a big duckbill here. You have a huge concave, and imagine trying to take a flat pad and polish in here. And this area had been sanded, it's been rotary polished, tons of scratches in there. So you're having to kind of lean your polisher up, go in there, which decreases the cutting time. It just takes a heck of a lot longer, but man, this thing is coming out freaking awesome. I'm sure a few of you Lotus owners, if you're watching this, will know that I did have the front hood open here, which you do have to actually take bolts out of. Before anybody freaks out, the customer showed me how to do this, and he said, if you want to get under there, you're completely fine to remove those bolts. Cool thing is, helped me a lot under here, get into those hip areas without risking damaging, edges like this while I'm polishing it and getting into more intricate areas here and here. It just really helps out. Now, I'm not a huge fan of taking cars apart, of course, but 3 little bolts, easy enough to do. So, next couple of steps here, we are kind of, I would say, midway. Always the big thing with these details is the initial paint correction. It takes so long, it's so messy. As you can see here on the car, this is why I don't worry about cleaning the wheels. This dust that is all over here, hopefully you can see that white powder, that is all compound dust. That's all the residue coming off the paint, that's blowing the pads out. and it gets all over the wheels. It gets pretty much everywhere. So it doesn't really make sense to clean those areas, to only re-clean them. So that's why I don't do that. But next, what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull the car out into the wash bay yet again. I'm just gonna quickly foam it down, do a quick pressure wash on it, get all of that dust out of all the nooks and crannies, and then we're gonna start on the wheels. Now, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do the wheels in here. Typically, I don't like to wash in here. We have a lot of electrical here, but it's also kind of nice to just have the car on the lift. But my customer also told me the Lotus chassis is so stiff, can stick one jack back here on the rear jack point and it'll do both sides. So I'll play with that a little bit, but next steps are wash, dial in the wheels, the suspension, get the wheels coated, get them back on. It'll come back here into the bay. We'll start our second stage polish on this, get the paint absolutely perfect, then get into the ceramic coatings. We'll then get into the interior detail and finish up all the final last details. So let's get rocking. And we are now at the protection stage. So you guys just watched me do the final polish here on the Emira, and it looks absolutely insane. The gloss on this thing, so much more refined. The piano black just looks insane now. That is the light reflection we are going for. Look at this whole area. You remember how destroyed that was. Perfectly polished now. Absolutely thrilled with the results. You know, as I talked about before, what a tricky vehicle this is to polish. It's so intricate, especially when you start getting into these vents, even back here. And I'll be 100% honest, it's not 100% because areas like this, I can't get all the way into that vent. I really wish I could, but you would genuinely have to have like a completely flat polisher. The issue is really the height on here. I changed different sizes, even went down to a 1-inch pad. Just impossible with some of these height restrictions. Like trying to get all the way back in here, not possible. The polisher is just too tall this way. And if you try to hand polish that, it's just gonna scratch the heck out of it. So we did the absolute best we could there, but really, really thrilled with basically everything else. The white paint is absolutely perfect now. Like not a thing in there. All of the piano black trim, really pumped with how it came out. So next stage here, ceramic coating, the paint and glass. Now let's quickly run through what we're gonna use here on the paint. So I'm going to open my coating drawer here filled with different coatings. These are all test coatings up here, other coatings that I've used, played with, but this is what we're going to be installing here on the Lotus. So this is Geon Infinite Base Type 1. This is a pro level only, as you can see, certified detailer on here. This is a 5-year ceramic coating made by Geon. Absolutely insane stuff. And then for the glass, we're going to be using jade amethyst. So that is the next steps in here. Before I actually coat the paint, what we're going to need to do is do our Geon prep wipe down, basically getting all the polishing oils, any residue we may have left over on the paint. Then we'll get into the coating session. Then starts the little details. So working on areas like dialing in the engine bay a little bit. We're gonna jump inside, get this interior dialed in. Honestly, not a ton that it needs in here. Just a general wipe down, obviously dial in the windows, and then really work on that side bolster there and get these bright red seats coated. So I'm gonna throw you guys on a time lapse. Let's get coating. And folks, here we are finished with the Emira. I'm thrilled with this. Now this project took way longer than I expected, to be honest. I'm thinking, okay, my first time working on a Lotus, not gonna be that bad. I think this paint's gonna be pretty good. And you know, my initial look at it was, oh yeah, it's pretty decent. And then of course we got into it, the paint correction, it needed a lot of it. Just tons of rotary marks, scratches, swirl marks, sanding marks, as I've said multiple times throughout this video, and then just the curves. Even ceramic coating this was very tricky, trying to break up panels. I mean, if you consider this one panel right here, very hard to do all in one go with a ceramic coating. Then you get back here to the rear bumper, trying to coat all of the diffuser here in these vents, even these side vents, of course. But man, I am absolutely pumped with how this came out. So as you can see here, that is our final light reflection result. This is fully coated. Do apologize for a little bit of dust on here. It's of course black, and yeah, I've had the door open all day. It's been super hot in here, but man, this thing looks stunning. So of course you guys saw me install G-Technic Infinite Base Type 1 on the paint. Absolutely love this coating. Again, a pro level only coating, but it goes on absolutely amazingly nice. The wheels were coated with Geon Mo's Evo. Came out absolutely stunning. You saw how much brake dust was on there. And do be aware, this orange dust will immediately go away. It's when the rotors get wet, they typically quickly oxidize and turn out not so great. Really, the only way to do that is to go drive the car, but I don't want to be driving my customer's car around. Now, I also did on the glass, I did jade amethyst on here. This is a full strength ceramic coating. The cool thing about this product, I've talked about it multiple times now, but it actually gets embedded into the glass. So it soaks into the pores of glass. It doesn't just sit on top there, and it looks absolutely amazing. So let me jump you guys inside here. You saw a little bit of a video of me cleaning this up, but look how stunning this red interior looks now. Wowee, wowee. So of course I cleaned up the interior, didn't need much, you know, door panels need a little scrub here and there. The seats, only the driver's side seat, really needed an aggressive cleanup. Let me pop over here so I can show you that. My customer was telling me he was having already, he wears jeans a lot, and he was having issues with the seats really getting kind of torn up here on the side bolsters, and now looking absolutely perfect. I also went ahead and coated the seats for him. That was just an optional extra. I used Jade Ceramics Pearl on this. First time ever using it, of course. A little scary to use a coating for the first time on a Lotus car that I've never worked on. Very fine grain leather here. Actually pretty darn impressed here with the leather they have on the Lotus. But the nice thing about this coating, doesn't make it shiny. It really soaks into the pores of the actual leather material here, and it becomes a part of it, and it'll help clean up with those dye stains from jeans. But the interior just looks absolutely immaculate here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Man, oh man, was it a project. I know I said that a few times, but realistically, 50 hours into this car, I mean, it was a serious one. I'm gonna try and open the hatch here. This thing's a little funny. It kind of takes the car, there we go, a little while to do some of this movement here. I haven't shown you in here, not really all that much needed, but I ceramic coated all of this plastic, even the top of the supercharger, all this area got cleaned up. If you're wondering why that space is there, funny enough, this piece actually falls out pretty much every single time you put it in, so he asked me to leave it alone. Now, back here, a few interesting things. The texture on this, I have never felt, it feels like sandpaper would be the best example of any sort of thought it would be. I guess that may be for heat, but I'm surprised they didn't use this actually really nice plastic that they have down here. It's a very, very nice plastic. Use it up there. I would think it'd be a heck of a lot nicer. But anyways, I'm gonna leave you with this here. Thanks so much for watching another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing, and my first time doing a Lotus. Pretty thrilled with it. Hopefully we can do some more soon. If you guys are interested in having your special vehicle, or you know, Teslas, Rivians, you guys see all the stuff I do on this channel, the amount of work, the passion, the dedication that goes into each and every single car. I hope you can appreciate it, and thanks for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.